Make sure to subscribe to the Volume YouTube channel so you can catch all of our shows and get what everybody wants, more of me. Robert, I want to start. I defended Sean McVay burning timeouts on the challenge. And I'm going to throw you my theory on it, and you tell me if I'm wrong, is that when you're facing the Niners, you face them twice a year. Their defensive line, you're not driving the field 80 yards on that defensive front, and Sean knows it. And he's thinking to himself, I trust Stafford. I have good wide receiver matchups against their corners. What I can't do is drive 85 yards down the field and score on this defense. I've faced them 6 times now. I'm 0-6. So he sees an opportunity for a challenge because a ref in mayhem may have missed it. And he's like, if I get a short field, I'm going to roll the dice. Everybody killed him on social media, and I'm like, no, I saw what he was trying to do. So that's my theory on him thinking, hey, I'm going to roll the dice on this challenge. I trust Stafford with 2 minutes and no timeouts. He's a grown-up, right? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, they gave up so many first-round picks for Stafford, right, for him to trust him in that situation. But I do think that McVay, if you watched him after the 49ers went up 17-7, he kind of had a look on his face that was a little concerning, like, oh, my goodness, Here we go again. You know, that look on his face in those moments when he's burning through the challenges and he's burning through his timeouts. I really think he's just throwing everything at the wall, trying to figure out something to get the momentum back on his team's side. And believe it or not, as everybody was killing him on social media, during that challenge, it also gave his team a time to regroup, right? Think about what they're going to do next, calm themselves down. And I think I listened to him when he was talking in the post game, and he said, you know, shout out to the players, because he's a coach that knows that he's a boy genius. We all know this. He's a very talented play caller, sees the game very well. But he can't do it without his players. That's why they gave up so many draft picks since 2018, right? 6 first-round picks since 2018, because he wants to go get guys that he know can make plays for him. So he does trust the quarterback that they took from Detroit, Stafford, to go out there with no timeouts and lead them down the field to a victory. So he's not really as worried about it. But if they didn't get the victory, he undoubtedly would have been questioned by everybody.
You know, it's interesting. They've got a lot of it's obviously, I underestimated the culture. OBJ's a veteran. Aaron Donald's a veteran. Von Miller's a veteran. I think he likes older players. Now, the 14 of their 22 starters are drafted, so it's not all old guys. But Robert, he's a really smart guy, and that system, Andrew Whitworth is the oldest tackle. Oh, yeah. I think he goes to Les Snead and he's like, listen, man, this system, it's not for kids, right? Like, that's how I feel. Like, he's getting in Les Snead's ear and like, I'll take Von Miller. You can have the draft picks.
Right. No, I think you're dead on there, and I really wanted to hit that today because I was coached by Sean McVay. He was tight end coach when I was in Washington initially in 2012, and then became the OC. Yeah, I feel like Sean McVay is a guy that leans on the coaching or the things that he's learned from his mentor. And I'm not talking about Mike Shanahan or Kyle Shanahan or Jay Gruden. I'm talking about John Gruden. And I know it's a little taboo to mention him, right about now. But John was a guy that also didn't truly develop talent, right? He liked older guys that knew how to play. And he would take established guys that maybe a little older, like a Derek Brooks or guys like Stafford, who still have some time on their career to play. And he would work with those guys because he knew they knew how to win. Now, in Stafford's situation, he wasn't winning a lot, but he was very talented. So I feel like they bring in Von Miller on a trade. They bring in OBJ on a trade. And he's going to Snead and telling him, I know we have to develop talent because that's going to help our program for the long term. But in the short term, we need to win so that we can get these contract extensions and get the excitement going in LA. And what better way to do that than to bring in these big time players who are already proven? And I tweeted out during the game, OBJ, 9 catches, 113 yards on 11 targets. But everybody before was saying he was washed. But that's not the point. The fact that OBJ is doing so well is a testament to McVay and his staff, but it's also a testament that if you get talented players in his system, they will excel, especially when you have guys like OBJ, who's a generational type talent, in my opinion.
Obviously, you don't move up for Trey Lance unless you want to play him. And he and Jimmy are really two different players. I mean, Trey is a bigger, stronger, more athletic kid. I don't think he has a very refined release yet. They have to work on him. And my takeaway is one of the hardest things to do in the NFL for a coach, ask Matt Nagy, is balance veteran and young guy. And I have always been one of these. I like what the Chiefs did with Mahomes. I like the veteran. I mean, what you did is rare. You had a veteran coach. You had a running game. That roster was offensively was okay. Most of the time, you rookie quarterbacks get the what kicked out of you. And so, I mean, so with Trey Lance, with Garoppolo, I think you have to kind of move him out of town because I want Trey to get every snap in camp, every snap, because I think his delivery, Robert, it's not refined, it's not easy. He doesn't throw the ball like a Burrow, and they need to work on it. So I think I would move Garoppolo despite his success. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I said it during the game, or should I say at the end of the game. The game ended on a Jimmy Garoppolo interception, however you want to look at that, right? It was tipped up by the wideout into the DB's hands, but it's a Jimmy Garoppolo interception on the stat sheet. And likely his career, most likely, is going to end on that interception with the 49ers. And it should. I think Jimmy G and Trey Lance, with Jimmy G, you know what you're going to get, right? Kyle trusts him in those situations at the end of the game to maybe lead you down the field or help you win a game 20-17. But with Trey Lance, the things that Jimmy couldn't do there at the end of that game when the pocket collapsed, right? And the off-schedule plays, that's what Trey Lance can do simply because he's talented in that way. Jimmy's been through a couple injuries, and as you've noticed over the course of his career, he doesn't run quite as much. He's not quite as confident while he's running. So when you talk about Trey Lance and Jimmy G, in my opinion, we don't know how Trey Lance throws the ball in game situations for an extended period of time. But you're right, he does need to get all the reps because every single rep that he's going to get in the offseason is going to help him get much, much better. And you're also right that when you talk about rookie quarterbacks, I mean, look at our guy over there with the Jets, Zach Wilson. Look at the Jags with Trevor Lawrence. They just got beat up a lot. And when we were in Washington, we kind of took a system and used the parts that we had to make it work.
Yes.
I look at Pierre Garçon, right? He was my number one guy, and we missed him for much of my rookie year. But he was kind of like a Deebo Samuel. We just didn't use him in the running game the way that Kyle is using Deebo. But Pierre, I mean, if he caught the ball, he was a load to handle. And we had other pieces. We had Leonard Hankerson, who was a big slot receiver. We had an older Santana Moss who can make plays for us. And I just feel like with Kyle, he's going to find a way schematically to get his guys in the best position to be successful. But when you have Jimmy G there and he's already led you to a Super Bowl, you're not going to replace him with Trey Lance. So I agree with you. Trey Lance, it should be the guy. They drafted him in the first round. You got to get Jimmy G out of there because, one, the team loves the guy, right? They just absolutely play their hearts out for him. And two, Trey Lance is your future. So you got to go already put all your books on that shelf. You got to start reading.
Okay, so let's pivot to the first game. So, I talked about this. When Patrick Mahomes came out of college, the knock on him was mechanically he was a lot of work, and he didn't have a repetitive nature. Every throw looked different. The angles, his feet. And I can remember reading scouting reports saying, he's great, but man, you're going to have to stay on him. And we've seen a couple times, Robert, in his career, he goes into these 5 and 6 game, I would say, mechanical slumps where he gets. It's not a criticism. It's a golfer who needs a weekend with his coach.
Right.
And I felt like, for whatever reasons in the second half, Robert, I felt he got the yips. He just did not throw with confidence. Did you see it?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the first half. Right, he goes 12 or 13 versus 2 high safeties. Everyone's talking about it. How they struggled earlier in the year with being patient. And I mean, he was beyond patient in the first half, right? Going through his progressions, throwing checkdowns. They got Tyreek Hill involved. They got Travis Kelce involved early. Jarrett McKinnon looked like an all-star there in the first half as well. So I think in the second half, it was a number of things. Third down, they weren't playing very well. On third downs throughout the whole year, they've been the best team in football. So when you get to 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, and now you're not converting, Well, now you're kicking the ball, you're punting the ball, and you're putting your defense on the field for exuberant amounts of time. And you're giving Joe Burrow, a guy that, I mean, I know you and other people have said is the next or better than Tom Brady, at least at this point in his career. You're giving him more opportunities to get going. So what'd you see from Burrow? Burrow starts running the ball. He starts being Houdini in the pocket. And I think that put a lot of pressure on the Chiefs. And Uncle Mo, as you know, is very fickle, right? Uncle Mo's very fickle. He's not loyal to anybody. And that momentum got on the Bengals side. And I just felt like the Chiefs could never get it back. It was an interception here, a penalty there, sacks. I think the Bengals had 4 sacks in the game, but they were all at crucial times in the game. So I don't know if Mahomes necessarily got the yips. I just feel like they relaxed just a little bit. They relaxed, and they were trying to hit that home run, take him out the game type play. And because of that, they allowed the Bengals to creep back into it.
You know, it's interesting. Burrow is such what I would call an easy thrower. It's just, it looks, when he came out and people compared him to Brady, I said, he reminds me of Tony Romo, actually, that they wore the same number. They move around. They're kind of elusive. They often duck under pressure. Not a huge arm, good enough. Mobile, not Josh Allen. He's obviously, I think he's a more consistently accurate thrower than Romo. But when you watch him, you know, what's so hard about this game is, Robert, there is an it thing. Yeah. I mean, it's, and there's something about Joe. It's almost like he plays with urgency at certain times. His body language is really, he's upright. Right. I don't know. When I watch him, I'm like, I can't describe it. But there's a sense of, there's an urgency to him where he gets really smart and really accurate at the right times. Like he knows he's a let it rip guy. He will throw interceptions. Yes. And then all of a sudden there's 3 minutes left and he doesn't throw interceptions. It's like the temperature in the room changes.
No, I'm with you. I like Joey B, Joey Burr, whatever you want to call him, Joe Cool. I don't care. The kid's story is incredible. Resilience, right? Transferring from Ohio State, going to LSU, doing all that. But I just look at Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, right? Just those two guys, because I feel like that's a key cog for them. You got T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Mixon and Uzama being out. I don't know how long he'll be out, but that'll hurt them at the tight end position. But I look at those two guys, and they're just young. They're young and dumb. They don't know what they don't know. So I watched Joe Burrow, not on the Houdini scramble where he put the ball out for the first down, but on the next one where he ran for 14 yards down the middle of the field, kind of had like the little awkward slide. And we both know I know a little bit about awkward slides, right? So Joe Burrow, in that moment, like he got up and he kind of like shrugged his shoulders off and like gave the first down signal. And I'm like, man, like this guy in these moments, you don't want him to be driving down the field with a chance to win the game if you're the opposing team. Because he does have ice in his veins. And you hear all these cliches, but what you said before, that it factor, right? He just has it. In those moments, he knows he can get the job done. And he's blessed with a skill set that is different than Tom Brady's, right? Everyone wants to talk about the cerebral side and the killer instinct of Tom Brady, but Tom Brady doesn't run and can't run like Joe Burrow can. And I've always felt like Burrow's an underrated runner when it comes to those situations. You can't just play 2-man against the guy because he can pull it down and he can go get you 14, 15 yards on a scramble. So in those moments, I just look at Burrow and I'm like, there's probably nobody I'd rather have at this point, even over Stafford, he'll be playing against in the Super Bowl. The Rams have to blow the Bengals out. If they don't blow them out, I think the Bengals can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's my gut feeling. I haven't seen the line. It'll be a field goal game. The Rams make enough mistakes to keep a young team in it. You know, I said something when the playoffs started. I said it's hard to win a World Series with a bad bullpen. It's almost impossible to find it. It's hard to win a Super Bowl with a suboptimal O-line.
Agreed.
It's the Bengals O-line is just not. It leaks. It's not great. And I do think Von Miller, Aaron Donald, that group is going to be a handful.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like Los Angeles will have an opportunity to control the line of scrimmage. That doesn't, again, so did Tennessee.
Yep.
It didn't matter. But
Right.
there's a difference between Tannehill and Stafford and just the ceiling of it. So I like the Rams, but, they make they make enough mistakes, Robert.
Yeah.
They keep you in it, I guess.
I'm with you. Yeah. And like early in the game, the first game early in the day, which I thought was a much more exciting game, bigger comeback, more plays that were going on. It was a more exciting game. But in that game, you had the feeling like, man, the Chiefs are about to blow them out. Like it's going to be 45 to 20 when this thing is all said and done. And then the Bengals defense did what they did the first time they played against the Chiefs, and they shut them down in the second half. Right. We can talk about Mahomes and maybe some of the decision making, and we can talk about the timeout that they gave up before they challenged the play. Even though they won the challenge, they still lost the timeout, which then hurt them before the half, getting at least 3 points when Mahomes threw the ball outside of the end zone to Tyreek Hill. But when you look at that game, it just makes me think like the Bengals are a resilient group. I think they are outnumbered and outmanned at certain positions, especially along the offensive line. And now you got them going against Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Floyd, all these different guys, while Eric Weddle tries to win a Super Bowl, which is just incredible to me, right? Just sits out the whole year. Now he's a starting safety in the Super Bowl. But I think that you're right from the standpoint that the Rams do make a lot of mistakes that keep teams in the game. And I do feel like they have to blow the Bengals out. Otherwise, it'll go a way they don't want it to go. Because that Bengals defense and their defensive coordinator, they're doing a great job in these second halves of shutting teams down and really creating turnovers. Jesse Bates getting that tip on Tyreek Hill for Von Bell to catch that interception was textbook, right? You can't catch the pick there. Get your hand on the ball. Von Bell makes a big play in a big moment. I said it was basically a punt. And then they just needed 20 or so odd yards to get in, range to win the game. So I think this Bengals team, don't count them out. But if the Rams go out there and make a bunch of mistakes, I'd rather have Joe Burrow than Matt Stafford at the end of the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to ask you one question not aligned with the championship weekend. I joked about it the other day on the air. I called it the Green Bay Packer quarterback syndrome.
Okay.
So Favre and Aaron Rodgers are totally different guys. One's the small town Southerner, one's the hipster from California, and yet they've become the same guy. Talking retirement, threatening, really like high maintenance, kind of playing the victim. And I said last week, I'm going to call it the Packer quarterback syndrome, that it's not a very good division. You tend to be the most high-profile player in that division, obviously the town of Green Bay. The expectations are high. It's a formidable brand. It's an easy sort of middle America brand to root for. People that don't live in Wisconsin, the Packers are a little engine that could.
Right.
And when you have playoff disappointments, Favre and Rodgers, you do feel like you don't get a full deck of cards. Everybody else gets 52. You don't have your kings and your jacks and your queens, right? You don't have an owner. You can't go bang on your owner like Les Snead and Sean McVay did to get Stafford. You don't have that.
Right.
You don't have free agents. Most dudes don't want to play in Green Bay. And so what happens is in the NFL, unfortunately, you can be franchise tagged. You're trapped. Yeah. And so Favre and Rodgers get into this sort of like, man, I'm getting beat up here. I know I'm good. And I just want an owner and I want a free agent market. Now, this is just me kind of freewheeling it here, ad-libbing. But they share some similarities. And I feel like for Aaron, Green Bay's, it's a wonderful thing. But I do feel like the story's played out. I do feel like Aaron needs an owner. Aaron needs Denver. Like, I really do. Like, I have sympathy for Aaron. I think, and I had it for Favre. Like, Green Bay looks like it kind of in the modern day football, it kind of wears a star quarterback out a little, right? Do you sense that?
I see where you're going with it, but I'm gonna tie it back into the games that we just watched. Okay, so Aaron Rodgers has Devontae Adams, arguably best receiver in all of football. I mean, you could throw some other guys out there. One guy you could throw out there is Jamar Chase, who didn't have the greatest game today. T. Higgins obviously had 100 yards receiving, played great for the Bengals. But a guy like Devontae Adams and a guy like Jamar Chase, they're what I call HBO type players, right? They help a brother out. So when Joe Burrow throws the touchdown to Jamar Chase, the previous play, he threw a similar pass. It was terrible, right? The touchdown that he had, the back shoulder slash jump ball that really wasn't a great throw either. Jamar Chase made it work, right? And I think Aaron needs more of those guys. He stood on the table to get Randall Cobb back to Green Bay, right? Everyone talked about it, how he demanded a certain amount of things in order to come back and play and not go host Jeopardy. So you're talking about the difference between a Randall Cobb, who in his prime, unbelievable player, and a Jamar Chase right now, who is also arguably the best receiver in all of the NFL. I think when you look at Green Bay, if Rodgers gets the say to say, look, I want that guy. I want that guy. I want you to draft that guy, and they don't draft another DB for the fourth straight year in the first round, I think he might be a little happier, you know?
Yeah.
Joe Burrow won a national championship with Jamar Chase. You're telling me they didn't go to him and say, hey, do you want this guy? Can you win with this guy? 1,000% they did, but they didn't present it that way. You know, they didn't say Joe Burrow drafted Jamar Chase, but I'm more than sure they got him on the phone and said, listen, we're going to get you guy. We're going to bring him in here. Because at the end of the day, at the end of games, who is Joe Burrow looking for? He's looking for Jamar Chase. That's why he threw that interception to L'Jarius Sneed, when he undercut the bench route. But over the course of the season, Jamar Chase puts up all these crazy numbers. He makes Joe Burrow's life easier, and Aaron doesn't have enough of those guys. And I think it's also a little bit about LaFleur, who is my quarterback coach in Washington, and the system that he runs. It's more similar to Kyle's than it is to McVay's. And because of that, you get in these games where you throw the ball 24 times. And if everything's going great, you kill it, right? You throw 4 touchdowns, the game's over, you win by 14. But if everything is not great, then at the end of the game, now you're having to come back from behind when you really haven't gotten a chance to get in that much of a rhythm throughout the game. So I think there's a lot of things to weigh there. I know LaFleur, and I know he loves Aaron and wants him to come back. I just think they got to get him more help. You know, get him another star receiver. Get him to go out and recruit some guys to come to Green Bay, because you're right, no one wants to play in Green Bay, but they do want to play with Aaron Rodgers. And I think that's the selling point. And he just hasn't gotten enough say in those matters for him to feel like, I should just stay here, because he wants a Super Bowl. And that team is ready to win a Super Bowl. They're just missing a couple pieces, just a couple.
Well, you've been fantastic. If you're ever looking for work on a podcast network, give us a call, because I think their insights I think they're fantastic. You really have an understanding of the game. You add such insight. And I've heard you before, so we went out and I said, get him on our podcast, but you're just terrific. And again, if those guys don't understand your value, we are always hiring. Robert?
Hey, man, I appreciate that, brother. I really do. That means a lot coming from you. You've been in the business a long time. And, you know, I'm just now getting into this. Only been in it for 5 months, and it's been a lot more fun than I thought it would ever be. So I appreciate you saying that.